So the way that I teach creative writing is very much around the workshop model, which is all of the students in the tutorial giving and receiving feedback. So I think the idea of feedback becomes baked into the pedagogy of the course. So by the time the CCAT rolls around later in the semester, I think they're quite ready to be part of that feedback process, and they see the value in it because they've been improving their own work and watching their classmates' work improve because of that. And I think that maps quite cleanly onto the idea that it can help improve teaching, that it's not just another bureaucratic exercise, but that it genuinely helps the course grow and iterate. In terms of sort of nuts and bolts, I try and make sure that I give the students 5 to 10 minutes in class time at the beginning of one of the tutorials to actually do the CCAT in class, and I encourage them to do it, and then I leave the room so that they can work in an unsurveilled way. I mean, I've been teaching on and off for about 20 years since I was pretty young, and I'm trying to think back. I think 20 years ago, if CCATs existed, I certainly didn't see the results of them, but I kept getting employed, so that must be a good sign. I feel like negative feedback probably takes one of two forms. One of them is just disgruntled or vexatious students who have had a bad personal experience and see the CCAT as a place to vent, and that's fine. But then there's the other question where there's sort of maybe more across the board feedback, and that's where you can identify that perhaps the structure of the course isn't working, if there isn't enough time in class for discussions, or if the lectures are too long. And so that stuff is really important. And I think the main thing to do is to take it seriously, reflect on what is changeable, because some stuff just isn't changeable. And if it is changeable, address it in future years. Yeah, so if I had to choose 3 things that I do in my pedagogy and my teaching practice that might reflect in the CCATs, I think number 1 would be the lectures, and putting a lot of work into them to make sure that, well, that they're fun and high energy and engaging, and that they are not a drag, right? That they're worth getting out of bed for on a Monday morning to see. And so I think I take the lectures really seriously in terms of like either scripting them quite closely, making sure I'm not running over under time, and really sort of, and putting a lot of work into my slides so that it's a sort of nutrient-rich experience. The second one, and this is probably the biggest one, I guess, is about building a supportive atmosphere in the classroom. And so with creative writing, the way it's often taught is in a workshop model where the students are reading each other's work and commenting on each other's drafts. And so that can be a quite vulnerable and confronting experience, but when it's facilitated well and when the class connects well, it can be an incredibly kind of powerful and transformative and very positive experience. And so I work hard to make the students feel comfortable with me and with each other. I make sure in the very first week that they write their names on little pieces of paper, and I memorize all the names and say their names back to them at the end of the first class. And so they sort of feel seen, I guess. And then as the weeks of workshopping unfold, that's about reading student work and giving personalized and quite detailed feedback. And I think that really helps the students feel like they're being taken seriously and their individual concerns are taken seriously. I think in a way creative writing is quite lucky in that way, that we can have that deep engagement with what the students, it's sort of led by the students and their concerns. And then I think the third thing is giving written feedback on both drafts and assessments. And that's something that I try and be as specific and robust and supportive as possible, both at a line-by-line level in terms of giving grammatical and stylistic advice, but then trying to really get to the bottom of what is going on thematically or philosophically with their piece, and to try and really inspire them to take it to a next level. And I sort of, working on the assumption that there could be 2 or 3 geniuses in the class, like every year, and that it's sort of my job to find them and let them know that they are geniuses, because often it's the ones who are very clever but also quite shy or unconfident. And so to watch that blossoming process is just so satisfying.